Okay, we've already formulated the problem yesterday of what we want to do with these points. Find the smallest arborally satisfied superset. Keep that in mind. And you can then interpret an algorithm that does this as either an offline algorithm or an online algorithm. The offline part is what we've done in the proof. We've looked into the future and built the tree based on that. That's offline by definition. If you instead reveal the next slice of the input, which is really just one axis dot, right? But you can say there's this time slice of x. In general, you could potentially define this problem to have more than one axis at a time. The points don't really care. All the examples that we've done had a single red dot in each row. That's not a problem to generalize from that. But if we stick with that, this xt is really just one dot. And then an online algorithm can take its current view of the world without knowing the future axes, but decide to place some dots to make this satisfied. And of course, you can't revisit. Once you're further down in the picture, you can't change your mind in the past and say, I'm actually changing this around. That it also doesn't work in an online algorithm. Okay, so we found a new representation. And that turns out to be, if you go row by row down the picture, there's a very natural choice for putting the dots, which is the greedy ass algorithm. And there's a certain tradition in this field of dynamic optimality to have, say, not quite grown-up abbreviations for various things. That's one of those. But it's memorable. So what you do is you, at each point, at each time step, when you add this new point, you satisfy all the rectangles that you have to, and nothing else. So all the new unsatisfied rectangles you satisfy now, and then you move on. Let's do a small example just to illustrate that a bit again. Let's do the pinwheel again. Or let's do this one first. How did I make? First is to 3, okay. So these are the axes. Now you have to imagine this is a sweep line algorithm. I'm starting at the top. I can't see what's below. I can only see what's above me and my current point. So if I arrive at this line, let me try something innovative. There's the okay, fun. Maybe not dotted. Imagine that this is completely intransparent. So you can't see what's behind the box, obvious. At this point, all we see is this single dot, no rectangles. We're happy. So we don't need to add any dots. Wants to keep dotted on. Now we get revealed the next point, and we see, oh, there is a rectangle that I need to satisfy, namely these two dots. I need to put a dot somewhere. Now I can't put it anywhere up here. That's changing the past. I can only put it here on this line. I could put it here, but that's kind of stupid, right? I would create another open rectangle with these two. If I put it here, I have another one. So the only sensible choice is put it in this corner. And that's a rule. Whenever you find an unsatisfied rectangle, I'm jumping ahead of myself, find the smallest one and put the dot in the corner. That's visually what's happening. So that's all. In this case, no more unsatisfied rectangles. I'm revealing the next point. What happens? There's a bunch of rectangles. So there's this one, there's this one, and there's this one. The smallest among those is clearly this one. So if I put a dot here, it happens to satisfy all the other rectangles. Now also notice what happens if you interpret this as a tree. Again, this is the offline view that knows the future, but we kind of, apart from this node, okay, let's let's just say up to this point, what would the tree have looked like? In here, 3 is accessed first, so that becomes the root, and then I have 4 on one side. In here, 1 is touched first, and then 2. So this should be the shape of the tree before I'm doing anything. Then I'm touching only the root, lucky me, and no things I can change. Then I'm touching 3 and 1. Well, that's the path from the root to 1. Now I could rearrange, but indeed, among 3 and 1, we see that 3 is touched again sooner. And so the tree stays. Okay, I'm revealing the last dot. Maybe get rid of this. And that opens a few more rectangles that we have to satisfy. There's this, there's this, there's this, there's this, there's this. A bunch of, kind of with everything, almost by definition, you have a rectangle, apart from this points in your own column. But then again, if you take the smallest only, this one is unsatisfied. Now there's a new rectangle. Whenever I add a dot, there's new rectangles formed. I didn't check this carefully in the previous step, I think. But there happens to be only this rectangle created, and that had already a dot. At this time, there's another rectangle, namely this one that isn't satisfied, so I have to put another dot. But these are all happy. So if you do this a few times, you get rather quick and skilled with this for some reason. It's rather fun and not at all complicated to execute. Whereas thinking about the trees that happen at the same time is much more taxing somehow. Okay, maybe it's just getting used to it. So that's a greedy algorithm for building an arborally satisfied point set. It is greedy in the point set, and it is an online algorithm in the point set. It would be cool if that was also a greedy algorithm with respect to the binary search trees. But that isn't quite clear yet, because again, here I've built this initial tree by looking at what happens in the future. I can put the points online, excuse me. I can assign the points line by line in a sweep line, only looking at the past and the present. But whether the tree can be made following that without looking into the future is not so clear. And indeed, this I'll come back to that in a second. There's one more point I wanted to make. Just on the point set, you can ask, how good is this algorithm? And it seems to work surprisingly well. There's a simple example that shows that it's not optimal. And that's essentially this little example with just 3 keys. And you can make it as long as you want in terms of time. You start with the middle one, and then you alternate between left and right. So if you see this, think about this from the tree perspective in this case again. You're touching key 2 once, and then never again. What kind of tree would you want to build? With 2 at the root? What's the cost for the subsequent accesses? Always 2. I'm always touching either this or this side. How about, okay, let's see. If you follow the algorithm for the greedy point set, that is precisely what happens. You put a dot here to satisfy that rectangle. Then you come here, smallest rectangle is this, and now everyone's happy. So indeed, greedy ass puts a dot along this middle column. And that means precisely this tree. Now, I claim this is not optimal because you can do a different point set. And here, I think it's kind of cool that in the points, it's very obvious that this is way better. Okay, I can't really get rid of the points without deleting more. Yeah, kind of not, but I wanted the picture to be nice and clean. What you could also do is in the first axis, be clever and touch everything, and then say always just do this. And you observe here all rectangles are satisfied, oopsie, via the top. The only new points that potentially give me new unsatisfied rectangles are always these guys, but then I put the dot in the first column. So what kind of tree is this? Well, it always touches the 1, so the 1 is in the root. Initially, I don't know exactly, right? Initially, it's this weird ambiguous, maximally ambiguous tree where everything is in the root. But then if you look down, it gets broken into the 1 at the root, and then here the 3 and the 2 down there. And then the tree never changes. But lo and behold, every other axis costs just 1, and the others cost 2. So this is 1.5 on average, and this is 2 on average. So it's a 3/2 difference. There's a factor of 3/2 between those two. Of course, this is not an offline algorithm. It kind of uses crucially that I invest at the beginning to touch the entire tree and rearrange it. And of course, you can try to pump up this example, but it's actually fairly hard to come up with bad cases for this algorithm. Most of the time, this greedy sweep line seems to work very well, to use a quantitative term. The reason why I'm fudging this is because, again, this is an open problem. But there's more. It turns out that you can translate this greedy algorithm that is online for the point set also into a proper greedy algorithm for the trees. What you need to do is essentially just resolve this ambiguity, and you can do it lazily. Whenever there's a case where previously in my example I said, no, bad luck, we have to look into the future to decide what the tree looks like. That was a bit of a smoke mirror, because you don't really have to. You can leave the tree in some ambiguous state with a clever data structure. And so this needs, conceptually, it's easy. You just leave the tree nodes that are not disambiguated yet, conceptually at the same level. And until you touch them again, you don't care what they look like. But when you touch them again, you've broken the tie. So in a way, you can always lazily do that, but doing this within this confines, with this constrained model of binary search trees with, only a pointer that can move in 5 directions and so on, or do 5 things in each time step, that's a bit painful. So I'm gonna spare you any of the details. The original paper that I cited initially gives some more details on this. I hope conceptually it's not so hard to imagine that essentially this tree, looking at what is tight at the moment and delaying it till later is possible. The really crazy thing is that this is indeed the same as this greedy future algorithm that we've looked at before. The greedy future algorithm was an offline algorithm because it said at each time step, I'm following the search path to the element I have to access now, and then I'm rearranging the element on the top tree, the top part of the tree that I'm touching, so that the next axis breaks ties. In other words, I'm building a tree based on next axes. I even used the same phrasing at the time, so maybe the connection isn't so surprising. I found this shocking when I learned about it. because this algorithm is very natural, but it's so much offline that it doesn't even come to your mind that you can somehow implement this. But via this indirect way to view it as points and having the right, I guess, the tree idea you could have had otherwise, but this is how it historically was discovered. You can indeed make this offline algorithm into an online algorithm properly working on BSTs. It's not quite as clean and easy to describe as splay with its 2 or 3 rules for rotations, and that's all. Because these split trees somehow need to give you, to break these ties among a whole bunch of nodes in constant time. And to do that in the search tree model is a bit more painful, so the algorithm is a little less clean and practical. But at least it exists. And conceptually easy to describe. Yeah. Where did I jump to? Nope. No, that was not what I wanted. So indeed, you can implement this as an online algorithm, and this is the second algorithm that I mentioned before. Indeed, by now we know more about this algorithm than about splay in terms of coming close to being constant competitive. So if you want to bet on current knowledge, this is even more likely than splay to be the answer for this open question. A few more things known. Maybe because it's a bit cleaner and in this point-based geometric view is more natural to argue about. On the downside is that it's probably a theoretical result only, because much less clear how to implement this in practice so that the time to do the next step is as fast as with splay.